Consciousness, the final frontier. These are the voyages into the universe between your ears. Our mission, to explore collective wisdom, seek out amazing secrets, and spread the message of personal potential.
So, sometimes, it could be like something, about your body, but even that is hard for people to do, right?
Yeah.
There's things that most of us can't look at ourselves in the mirror without, judging ourselves and with clothes on, let alone naked, like try doing that, right?
Yeah.
So it could be things, about your physical self, or it could be things about your personality, or it could be your way of being, or, like, I love that I'm willing to make difficult decisions, or, for example, or I love that I'm willing to be honest no matter what, so whatever is true for you, that day and that moment.
Got it.
I would think you've got to be a changed person coming out of this.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't think that I could do 100 days, it didn't feel like feasible. I don't think I could probably even do like 30 days or something. Like it felt so beyond what I could comprehend. But it was a powerful practice, and all of them, in the book really are. So.
Do you think you would have done it if you weren't posting things publicly? If you were just writing these things down for yourself, you think you would have stuck to it?
Maybe, but I think, having, sort of accountability, and also just seeing what other people are posting, and just that synergy and that group energy is really powerful, and being witnessed in that way, right? People are, that's where it takes it to that next level, where it's a little more, it's vulnerable, right? To tell other people what you love. And it's not necessarily just good things too, right? It's easy to think, oh, I'm just going to say what I love about myself in a good way. But when you can actually love the parts of yourself that aren't quote unquote good, I think that's where it gets really like good, I guess, like juicy, right? And yeah.
Well, that's it. See, this is the kind of stuff that I'm thinking certain members of the audience, whoever they may be, hearing this, where it can drive a point home for certain people, because everybody struggles with their own demons in their own ways, and self-love is a big one, right? And that what you just said, understanding that it's possible to love and appreciate something about yourself that maybe isn't so great. That's a possible reality, and because there are plenty of people out there who would say, well, I'm too fat, and it's just how it is, and I've always been fat, and so I hate that. You don't have to hate it. Maybe you don't love it, but there can be things about it that you could find to appreciate.
Right. Yeah. That's like, I love that my body does. Our bodies really, truly are amazing when you think about it. Like there's so many things going on that we don't even realize that it's doing all the time. Right. And so just being able to appreciate that, and instead of picking and saying, oh, I wish that, my arms were more like this, or my butt, or my abs, or whatever, like try to like, you wish it was different, but just being like, wow, like, I love that my body is always taking care of me, or it's always doing this, or, it's just like learning to love the parts of ourselves that are difficult to love.
And start small, right? Find the things that are easy.
Right.
And get into the practice of noticing that stuff, appreciating that stuff. And it becomes easier. It's like any new practice, or any journey you've got to take, that in the beginning, it's more difficult. You don't know how you're going to get from here to there. It's, you don't believe. But rather than try to just take giant steps and big leaps in changing somehow, start small, do the things that you can accomplish easily, and, build a little confidence in yourself, and the bigger things will come.
Right. Yeah. I would say, it's like a muscle, right? You got to build it and to strengthen it. Yeah.
Cool.
This is, do you think that there's a trend that more and more people love themselves, and recognize what self-love is and how important it is than ever before?
I hope so. I mean, I know that suicide is actually on the rise as well. So that's a big part of my mission and really bringing hope to the world, and just knowing that, like, that's, to me, that's self-love was, a huge piece of what saved my life. Like, it kept me from killing myself, because I realized the truth of who I was. And, instead of those thoughts that, don't make me feel so good and make me want to, like, think that maybe I should do something like that, So, yeah.
So if there's somebody who's checking this out and maybe they're feeling like they might be in that same position, do you have one or two thoughts that you would share for them moving forward? That, bite-sized kinds of things that people can do?
Yeah, I mean, one thing is gratitude, right? That's another one of my practices that's so simple but so powerful, is, again, shifting your mind from what's lacking in your life to what you have. So, writing down one thing you're grateful for every day. And you don't even have to, if you want, you can join. There's a Facebook group called What Am I Grateful For Today? You can join that, and, you could join in and just see what other people are posting, not necessarily have to post yourself too. But yeah, or just writing in your journal, for yourself, so that you, focus, like like you mentioned, Gabby, like I said in my book about the law of attraction, what you focus on expands, it really is true. So if you're constantly focusing on what you wish was different in your life, what's not in your life, then that's what you're going to get more of, right? Whereas if you focus on what you do have in your life, then you're going to get more of that. And so, that's a really simple, again, but powerful practice that really shifts your mind. And again, it could be starting really basic. Like, I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful that I have food to eat. Like, basic level gratitude, right? And then, maybe moving on to other things. But so that's one practice. And then another one is, I talk about this in my book too, but, I think when, we can have these thoughts that are limiting, right? These ideas, and then just questioning those. Like, for me, I had these beliefs around like marriage and relationships that was, putting conditions on my happiness. So I had a belief that if I was single, that I'd be miserable. I had this fear of being single. And also I had this idea that if I got married, that I'd be happy, right? And then I just started questioning it. I said, well, how do I know that, like, being single is going to make me miserable? And how do I know that getting married is going to make me happy? What if being single was the best thing that I ever did? What if, I'm sure there's lots of married people that are not happy, that just because I were to get married doesn't mean I'm going to be happy, right? So I started questioning those beliefs. And when I did that, it created space for something else, for a different possibility. And so, yeah, so I would say those are, just two practices that I think would be really powerful. So if you're in that space, to start, like, just looking at those beliefs that you have and start questioning them, like, well, how do I know that this is true? Because it may seem true, but it's not, right? Like, there's never one answer. Like, we live in a world of infinite possibilities. There's never one possibility. There truly are so many more. And so when we can just question it, that just asking that question just opens up that space. So then you don't even have to know the answer to it, but just opening up that space will create a different possibility.
Because
Okay.
I've been waiting to ask about this, and something that you said in the book. You were talking about purpose. You don't necessarily find a purpose; it finds you.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that you're a healer, which would be cool, I think, to talk about, and how you heal. But you say in the book that healing chose you.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to go down that alleyway and
Sure.
ramble a little bit?
Yeah. So the healing modality that I talk about in my book, that is the one that I prefer to do with my clients, is called matrix energetics, because it's very specific to the individual. So I'm trained to do Reiki. I'm familiar with pranic healing, and Reiki, you do the same thing with everybody. And pranic healing is like a cookbook where, somebody has this ailment, you do this, right? And so it's very prescriptive like that. With matrix, I can't tell you what I'm going to do with you until I'm actually with you in a session, because it's very much what's happening in that moment. And so you could come to me or come to somebody else, a practitioner, with the same quote unquote issue or ailment, and our sessions could look completely different. and so I really like that. That's one of the things I really like about Matrix. And it's also, it really taps into that kid inside of us, that playful, curious nature that we have. And so that's another thing that I really like. So what it, is it's based on, science, quantum physics. So there's a science behind it. And it's the idea that everything is energy and that we don't just have physical bodies, but we have emotional bodies, mental bodies, spiritual bodies, and that everything is connected. And so when someone comes to me with an issue, my job isn't to try to fix that issue. Like if, for example, you come to me and say, I've got some back pain going on right now, and my job isn't try to make that pain go away, because that's probably not really your issue, right? It's probably just a symptom of something else. But the cool thing is I don't even need to know what your issue is to change it. I just, they say where your attention goes, energy flows. So I just follow my attention, like where my attention is taking me. And I'm really just allowing that energy to flow through me. So I'm the channel for it, right? I'm just getting myself out of the way as much as I can, not be in my head and worry about whether I'm doing it right, because there really is no right or wrong way to do it. And I know when I started, I was nervous, like, well, what if I do it wrong? What if I hurt somebody? But it's designed so that you can't do that. Like the worst thing that could happen is nothing, nothing changes. But I've never experienced that. Every single person that I've worked with has seen like an experience like right away, like something shift. Usually it is that thing that they come to me with that does change. But then there's always things that happen that you don't even expect, right? It's like, okay, well, maybe your back pain is gone and now, something shifts in your romantic relationship or in your money situation, because it is all connected, right? So we can't even predict what's going to happen, which makes it really exciting and fun. But as far as, it chose me because it wasn't something that I knew I had a gift of, and I truly believe we all are healers. We all have that ability. But I didn't even know that. And it was through, it was in that relationship where I was in that emotional abusive relationship that I was introduced to that, because his mom, he grew up in that environment. His mom did Reiki, and his parents were coming into town for the seminar, and I just went with them. And, Friday night was a free seminar, and I tend to be pretty open, and we just watched a YouTube video about this guy, and I was like, okay, sure, why not? And so we go, and, it's funny though, because I'm sitting there, in the audience, and he's bringing people up on stage, and people are falling down, and I'm sitting there literally thinking, like, I bet he's paying these people. Like, I was the most skeptical person there, right? And was not buying it. And I really don't know what happened. Like, all I know is that over the next year, I just stayed curious about it. And I would ask my boyfriend at the time about it. And then the next year came around, and, they have like different levels, and we did level 1 together, and I did 2 and went on and did 3, 4, and, the practitioner training and everything. And so, that's why I say that it was something that found me, that I didn't choose or find it, and,
Cool. All right. So now let's go back and talk about society.
I want, well, the idea that finding that gift, or, it may not just be one gift, but it could be a collection of gifts, I guess. Mm-hmm. And finding it, if you do, then this is the luckiest thing. I mean, because that's where you could be the most, I guess, I don't want to say contributing, because I don't care if I contribute or not. So, but you're going to really have the most fun with it, right? Because mm-hmm. when things work for you, when you're an amazing artist, and you could produce some virtuoso work, like unbelievable piece of music, obviously you must mm-hmm. be really high. You have to be really connected to the divine power, right? Mm-hmm. So finding that gift, you're saying that healing was your discovery, right? That you're
right.
A healer. Now, when you're healing, does that give you that kind of high? Is that your criteria?
Yeah, it definitely does. I was at a women's retreat, and I did I think maybe 6 sessions in a row, like a bunch of the women so one by one, they would come into my room, and I would do my healing work on them. And we started, I think it was like 10 p.m. or something, and went till at least midnight. But I was so energized, because it's like, I love it so much. And so it definitely energizes me. And brings me joy, and especially to see, you know, the changes that happen in them too. And I mean, it was funny because there's this thing I do where I can kind of go back in time and like, you know, ask about certain things that happen at certain ages, but I'm not trying to figure that out. Like it just, like, I just notice in my body where I feel a shift in energy or something. And I'll say, okay, so did something happen when you were 10, for example, right? And so I was working with this woman, and it was like, I could tell, like, she was kind of freaked out by it because it was like, I was so accurate, but she was so curious too. So she was like, okay, that's really strange, but keep going. Like, it was one of those things where, you know, she was like freaked out, but she was also curious. And so she wanted me to keep going with it. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad experience. It doesn't have to be like, oh, something traumatic happened when you were 10. It could actually be something good that happened, that there's a part of you that is wanting to reconnect with that, you know? So it's cool because it doesn't necessarily mean it was a bad thing. And of course, sometimes we go into experiences like where, you know, I find something that happened when you were, before you were born, like you were in the womb. Obviously, you're not going to remember what that is. So like, that's fine. Like, you don't even have to know. And something can still shift because it's just energy, you know?
So did you notice that there was like a change in your life before and after, you know, that discovery of your gift?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a big part of my self-love journey too, right? It was like realizing that I am a healer and that we all have that ability, and realizing that I'm not my thoughts, and really understanding that I'm not just I don't just have a physical body, like this isn't just who I am, that like we are just balls of energy that go way beyond our bodies, right? And when I really got that, like that was a huge shift for me in my mind of understanding like who I am. And yeah.
So,
are you?
Yeah.
So I was just going to ask that, you know, because you've got experience with Reiki and what was the other one? I didn't.
Pranic healing.
Pranic, yeah.
Yeah.
And now the Matrix thing. Is there something next, do you think? Is there something that will work even better, that you'll get even more juiced out of, or? Doesn't matter.
I mean, I don't know. I don't find them, you know, they find me. I don't usually like seek them out, but Matrix, like I said, is a thing that, and I actually, you know, I do it for myself a lot of times. And it's not even just like, I mean, I get parking spots, like, you know, maybe sometimes not that hard here, but in Chicago, like, you know, when it's hard to find parking spots. And so I will do this on parking spots, and I will almost always get a spot. And sometimes I'll get multiple spots, and I'll be like, wow, thank you. Like that was an abundance. And, you know, there's a time where I went to a concert and it was supposed to rain. And so I had a friend that was supposed to come with me, and she was like, you know, I want to go, but it's supposed to rain. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I ended up taking this guy I was dating at the time, and it was crazy because it looked like it was going to rain the entire time, but I used my Matrix, you know, to like fend off the rain. And then literally as soon as we got in the car, it started raining. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And so my friend was bummed that she didn't go. And I was thinking, maybe I should have told her, well, you know, don't worry about the rain because I've got magic powers. But I thought she would think I was kind of weird, so I didn't say that to her.
She probably knew.
I know what you mean. For many people, it could be strange, but I've seen it working. My wife often loses things, she misplaces things. So, and you know, I used to freak out a lot about that because, so, you know, like a car key, the only one that we have, and now it's lost. So, and she said, don't worry, I'm going to ask the angels, and they're going to tell me, you know, where the car keys are. And just yesterday, the garage remote control was lost, and I couldn't find it. It was no problem. And 30 minutes, you know, passed, and she walks in with the remote. It's like, how did you find it? I asked the angels, and you know.
I just say, well, if I was a garage remote control, where would I be?
Right.
And that works pretty well, actually.
Yeah. So my mom, who is visiting us, she's saying she heard the story, and she says, listen, I lost this diamond earring not so long ago. Can you help me find it? You know.
Did it work?
No. Well, she just said that. Let's see what happens.
You know, there's something called remote viewing. And there's a guy who I want to get on the show named Russell Targ, and he spent 20 plus years. This group that he put together with some other friends from MIT, and they were just kind of into this stuff, and the CIA found out about them, and then the CIA funded this research for them for 20 years. And then when it became an issue, then the CIA said, well, we don't know who you are, and no more funding. But the stories are fascinating. And they started out, some of what they did was things just like that. Let's find the lost earring, where do you see it? And somebody just finds it, so that stuff it shouldn't be surprising to us, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Because there is no physical anything truly. So we should be able to, everything's just energy, and we're tapped into it and we're part of it. We should be able to we ought to be able to just go, oh, there it is.
Yeah. Well, one of
give me another week and I'll be able to do that.
One of the most powerful experiences of like realizing that we're, everything's just energy is when I was at this retreat in Mexico, and I did a Qigong class. I think it was Qigong. It was like Tai Chi or Qigong, but I think it was Qigong. And this, our teacher had us do this thing where it was like opening your heart or something, he called it, and we were moving our arms around, right? And I had this moment where I literally looked at my arms like I wasn't moving them, like I was watching them moving. And so I realized in that moment, I'm like, if I ever doubted that I'm not just my body, in this moment, there's no doubt. Like I literally didn't feel like I was the one moving my arms.
Yeah.
Like there was a me outside of my body that was doing it, like a consciousness outside of it. So, well,
there's so many people who have had out of body experiences in different ways, astral traveling, and then there's the, near death experiences and things. And I got a friend who was during an operation, I think, and she was looking down on the doctors and all the stuff that was going on, So
there's so much that science doctors can't explain, and it's like, well, that's because there's something so much beyond like what we think we see in the world, right? So
I think it's kind of cool. It's exciting because the stuff is all coming together, and science is proving with quantum mechanics and stuff. They're proving a lot of these things that the metaphysical community has been talking about for 1,000 years or whatever, and a lot of the religious,
a lot of revisiting is happening. A lot of revisiting of the ideas. Like I recently came across Darwin's theory was challenged, right? Darwin's theory suggested that competition is the driving force, right? Where and now one after another, very significant work comes out saying that no, it was all misinterpreted. Collaboration is the driving engine. Collaboration, I don't know how. What's your estimate? I mean, where do we stand? It looks like, some shifts are happening for sure, right? We could see it in the people, right? But sometimes I'm just looking at the way things are going. I mean, do they need to get really, really bad before they get better? Sometimes I'm thinking there's like so much chaos.
Well, sometimes
Tim is thinking I'm again hijacking the politics.
I think that sometimes that does, like, things fall apart to fall together, right? Sometimes those things have to happen. I mean, old things have to fall away so that new things can become born out of them,
Yeah. You were mentioning about the circle in Mexico, remember? And how do you call that? And what is that about?
Women's Circle?
Yeah.
So that was an incredibly life-changing experience, sitting in my first women's circle in Mexico. It was a retreat, and, I didn't really know what I was doing there. I didn't know what was going to happen there. All I knew is that I felt called to be there. I was told that, this was a week-long retreat. At the end of the week, you were going to fall in love with yourself. And again, at that time, I didn't know if it was possible, but something in me knew that I needed to find out. And so that's what brought me there. And then I was, of course, the place was gorgeous right on the beach, and we slept in these bungalows, and I could hear the sound of the waves, like fall asleep to the sound of the ocean, wake up to the sound of the ocean. It's pretty much like my dream come true, right? And yeah, it was just amazing. And I sat there on the beach in my first circle and didn't know what I was doing there, what was going to happen. And, you know, we had this rock and we would just pass it around. And whenever you got the rock, then it was your turn to talk. And you just had to say whatever was on your mind. And it was just so amazing, like sitting there in this group of women and realizing that, like, truly we are all so similar, right? Like, it's easy to think like my issues are only my own, that like nobody's going to understand, like nobody has those thoughts in their head like I do, right? Like, that's special or unique to me or something. And then realizing that when you hear someone else say that, you're like, oh my gosh, like, wow, they actually feel that way too, you know, because it's on the outside, people can seem like, you know, their life is so perfect, especially on Facebook, right? It's so easy to see people's lives and think, wow, they've got it all together. You know, I wish I had that relationship, or I wish I had, you know, my business was doing that well, or whatever it is. And then realizing like, wow, like it's really, we all are just the same on the inside. You know, we really have the same struggles and challenges.
And this is like a retreat kind of thing, right? Basically, people from different parts of the world could come and join this, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a very much inward, you know, I mean, we were with other people, but a lot of it was silent time of just like going inside and listening to what, you know, is happening inside you, and awareness. And we had a lot of time to, you know, just hang out at the pool. And
no cell phones, no connectivity, right?
Well, they have, so it's funny because, I mean, they have Wi-Fi, but like you don't want to be on Wi-Fi, you know, like there's just, it's called present moment for a reason. I mean, the woman that created it, she created that name because she needed that reminder for herself. But really, when you go there, like the energy, you feel like, yeah, there's no way you want to spend any moment on that computer that is making you not present to the surroundings that are around you, you know?
Yeah. The second time I hear of this, my friend Nick, if you're listening, I'm mentioning you. He's been after me. Come and you know, for a week. We're gonna live there in some, you know, a deserted, secluded place, completely unplugged.
Yeah, it's really a magical space, and
that might kill Gabi.
And there's a special, and you know, I was almost ready to go, but when they mentioned what they eat there, and you know, I'm very selective about, you know, I mean, it was, it really could, well, you know, I'm spoiled completely. You know, my daughter is telling me I'm eating in a 5-star restaurant, you know, every day, and when she comes visit me, it's like, do you realize that you have like a VIP, you know, food here all the time? You know, it's like, no, it's just the contrast is huge because they're getting like, you know, frozen food from Whole Foods, you know,
right,
which could still be good, but you know, so yeah.
Well, the food
that's the only thing that stopped me. But
what do you mean? The food is good there. The food's like it's healthy and it's fresh, and yeah, I mean, everything about that place is amazing. You know, it's just, they have a pavilion thing, like where you do your yoga, and it's overlooking the ocean, and the meditation classes, and yeah. And
is there any dancing and music?
Oh yeah, there's dancing too. Yeah, they have live music sometimes, and like, yeah.
And men are not allowed there, right?
Oh no, men are allowed. I mean, it depends on you know, you have to check on their site when they have, sometimes they'll have women's only retreat. So then maybe the men won't be able to go, obviously, but
that's the one Gabi wants to go to.
There are co-ed
for that matter.
So actually my mentor that I went to that retreat with, her name's Leela Francis, and she used to do these women's retreats, and now she does cleanses, and she does dancing because that's a big passion of hers. And so she does co-ed cleanse retreats, and she also does women's cleanse retreats, you know, with dance too. So yeah, I definitely recommend going. And even if, you know, you just go, you know, with your wife, you can take her there. I mean, I thought about like when I get married of like going there, getting married there, something, such a special place. So yeah.
Probably.
All right. Well, I think we're starting to run up against the time limit here.
Right.
So even though this is not the perfect segue into closing out, but here we are. So Joy, share with us, with the audience, you know, what is it that you're doing, and you know, how do people chase you down if they want to get more and find your book and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so the best way to find out what I'm up to is to go to my site, so joiecheng.com. It's joiecheng.com. And that's where you can, get my book, and then it'll have the link to Amazon, and it's available print, Kindle, or audio. So whatever floats your fancy. There's benefits to all three. Obviously the print book, you can journal in it, which is cool. The audio book, you get to hear my voice and feel like you're on that journey. And then the Kindle has pictures that are in color, and just if you'd like to travel with it, it's easy for that too. So recommend getting all three, or whatever you feels like suits your fancy, like I said. So and then that's where you can find out about other things that I offer, like my energy healing, women's circles. I'm going to be creating a course based on the book, actually, on those practices soon, so that's where you'll find out about that as well. So that's pretty exciting, and you can kind of go on your own experience with that. And I think that's it.
Cool.
Oh, one thing is, there's also a free gift called the 7-Day Self-Love Challenge, that if you go to my site, you can get that free gift. And basically, you'll if you sign up, you'll get an email every day for 7 days that will have a different practice every day. That's also the practices in the book. But if you wanted to start out with that, you could sign up for free and check that out. And I've gotten really amazing responses from people just from that, of how much it's helped them and changed their life. So feel free to go and get that free gift at joiecheng.com.
Great. Well, thank you. I think we're going to let you go.
Okay.
Been looking forward to having the conversation. It's been a while since we talked. So
yeah, I know. Thanks for having me. And
thank you very much. Yeah.
Meet you, Gabby, and yeah.
All right. Well, let's end this here. Listen, want to thank everybody who's listening or watching. And wherever you're consuming this, please subscribe and tell all your friends and your family and the dog and everybody else. All right. All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Hi, this is Tim Starr. Thanks for joining me and Gabi on the universe between your ears. We really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a little while. And we'd like to see you again. So be sure to subscribe wherever it is you're consuming the podcast from, whether it's YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes or whatever the hell else is out there. We want to see you again. We also want to hear from you. So let us know what you think of each episode. Let us know if you got an idea for a future episode that you think would be just killer. Absolutely, let us know. All right? Thanks again, and we will see you next time around. Bye-bye.